The biggest lie in government technology is that you need a Big Four firm to implement your ERP system successfully. I've been in government consulting for over 2 decades, and I've watched agency after agency sign 8-figure contracts with the big names, believing that the brand name guarantees success. Now we're talking about Deloitte, Accenture, IBM, you name it. It doesn't guarantee success, and I'm going to tell you why. Now here's what I mean by that. When a city or state agency needs to modernize their financial systems, their HR systems, their procurement systems, the default move is to hire the biggest firm they can afford. The logic sounds reasonable. Big project, big firm, big safety net. But think about this for a second. If the big firms were actually delivering consistent success, why does every government technology conference have a lessons learned from fail implementation session? Why is that even a category? If you're a government leader watching this, a CIO, a CFO, finance director, city manager, and you're about to sign a contract with a major consulting firm, you need to understand what's actually at stake here. I'm not talking about the contract value. I'm talking about the 3 to 5 years of your career that will be consumed by this project. I'm talking about the staff burnout, the political capital you'll spend, and the services your citizens won't receive while your team is buried in an implementation that's gone sideways. The average government ERP failure doesn't just cost money, it costs careers, it costs public trust, and in some cases it costs the ability to deliver essential services to the people who need them most. So if you leave this video right now, you might be walking into a situation that could have been avoided. Let me tell you about a mid-sized city. I'll keep them anonymous, but this is a real situation. They had a legacy financial system that was, no exaggeration, running on code from 1980s. Fumes. Think green screens, command keys, the works. The finance team was doing heroic work just keeping it alive. They knew they needed to modernize, so they went through the standard process, wrote an RFP, got proposals, and ended up selecting one of the top consulting firms in the world. It felt like the safe choice. The contract was around $15 million for the implementation, US dollars, plus the software licensing. Big investment, but the council approved it because, again, big firm, big safety net. Here's what happened. The firm staffed the project with junior consultants. The senior partners who sold the deal, they showed up for the kickoff meeting and the steering committee presentations. That's it. Day to day, the city was working with people who had maybe 2 or 3 implementations under their belt, and none of them in a similarly sized municipality. 18 months in, they were behind schedule, over budget, and the system they were configuring didn't match how the city actually operated. Now, you know that no 2 cities are alike. The service components are different, the council vision's different, the budgets are different. So the consultants kept saying that the city needed to change their business processes to match best practices, which really meant matching how the software worked out of the box because the consultants didn't know how to configure it properly, which really meant matching how the software worked out of the box because the consultants either didn't know how to configure it to your processes or the city's processes, or they wanted to get it done and get out of there. The city had 2 choices. 1, abandon the project and eat $10 million in sunk costs, or push through and end up with a system that would require workarounds for the next decade, a never-ending project. They pushed through, and 5 years later, they're still dealing with the consequences. Now here's the part that really matters. This wasn't a technology failure. The software they selected was solid. This was an alignment failure. The consulting firm's incentives weren't aligned with the city's success. They were aligned with billing hours and moving on to the next engagement. It was not a partnership. Contrast that with what we've done at Overo successfully. Different city, similar size, similar needs. But instead of bringing in a 100-person team from a national firm, they brought in our team of specialized advisors. We weren't there to staff the project. We were there to guide it. We helped them select the right software, negotiate the contract, and most importantly, we stayed engaged throughout the implementation to make sure that the system integrator actually delivered. If you want to learn more about the different players within a system implementation, click on this video. The difference wasn't the software. The difference was independent oversight from people whose only incentive was the city. So here's what I want you to take away from this. If you're a government leader evaluating a major technology initiative, there are 3 questions you need to ask before you sign any consulting contract, including with us. Question 1, who will actually be doing the work? Not who's selling, not who's presenting. Who will be in your building at your desks working with your staff every single day? Get names, get resumes, get references for those specific individuals. Now keep in mind that sometimes the timing doesn't work out. When you release an RFP, to the time where the proposals come in, to the time when you do interviews, to the time when you're doing contract negotiations, those resources may not be available anymore. So that's a little bit of a gray area there where you can't really nail down the people on the proposals or the resumes you got on the proposals. When you're doing pre-kickoff meetings, when you're doing contract negotiations, that's when you need to get the names, get references for specific individuals, and put it in the contract that those people can't be swapped out without your approval. The big firms, some of them may do a bait and switch constantly. A team sells, C team delivers. Don't let that happen to you. Question 2, how does this firm make money? This sounds like a simple question, but it's not. If your consulting firm also sells software, now this is the critical element when we talk about independent consulting. If the consulting firm you chose also is a system implementer for all the major software out there, or takes referral fees from software vendors, or makes more money the longer the project runs, their incentives are not aligned with yours. Independent advisors make money by getting you to a successful outcome efficiently. That's it. When you understand how someone makes money, you'll understand how they'll behave. Question 3, what happens if this goes wrong? Ask them directly. What's your escalation process? What contractual protections do I have? What's your track record on similar implementations? And can I talk to references from projects that had challenges, not just the successful stories? Any firm that only wants to give you references from their wins is hiding something. Every implementation has challenges. You want a partner, not a vendor. You want a partner who knows how to navigate them, and you find that out by talking to clients who've been through the hard parts together in partnership, because their incentives were aligned. Now here's the bottom line. The myth is that big firms reduce risk. That may be true in some cases, in some instances, in some variables. The reality is that big firms often introduce risk of misaligned incentives, risk of junior staffing, risk of a one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't fit your agency. And we know in government, no two agencies are alike. Independent advisors exist specifically to put the government's interests first. We're not trying to sell you software. We're not trying to extend the engagement. We're trying to get you to a successful implementation so you can get back to serving your community, or better, you never stop. The project continues and goes on with proper implementation planning, governance, and communications in place. I want to hear from you. If you've been through a government technology implementation, whether it was a success or a struggle, drop a comment below and tell me what happened, what worked, what didn't. What do you wish you'd known going in? And if you're about to start one of these projects and you're not sure if you're set up for success, please reach out. Seriously, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can go to averoadvisors.com, or just reply in the comments and I'll get back to you. These projects are too important to get wrong, and a 15-minute conversation might save you years of pain. Also, if this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's a government leader somewhere right now who's about to sign a contract that's going to make their life miserable for the next 3 to 5 years. Maybe you can help them avoid it. Thank you for watching this. I know your time is valuable and I don't take it for granted. Government technology isn't a sexy topic, it doesn't get clicks, but it matters. Because when these systems work, government can actually serve people more effectively. And when they don't work, real people suffer real consequences. So thank you for caring about this stuff. I'll see you in the next video.